We're mainly interested in China's international role and impact in what we define as conflict-affected and fragile states. Generally speaking, China's economic footprint in many countries that are fragile and affected by conflict is quite significant and is growing. Through the provision of jobs, services, and infrastructure, China can support long-term peace-building efforts in such context. However, and here comes the challenge, economic assistance and investment in conflict-affected states do not always have the intended positive results. So in some cases, actually, aid and investment may even increase the risk of violent conflict, for instance, by reinforcing the patterns of economic and political exclusion that give rise to tensions, grievances, and violence. China plays quite a significant economic, diplomatic, and political role in South Sudan. If China's engagement in the country becomes truly conflict sensitive, the human security impact can be very positive. The cornerstone of our work has been promoting understanding of the benefits of adopting a conflict sensitive approach, which entails not being blind to conflict and not being blind to one's impact upon it. There is a strong desire among Chinese companies as well as the Beijing policy community to consider how China's engagement in South Sudan can be made more conflict sensitive, both at the national and the local level. We have therefore, an important window of opportunity for a meaningful, result-oriented type of dialogue with a range of important Chinese actors operating in South Sudan. Whilst the interest in the concept of conflict sensitivity has increased among a range of stakeholders in China, it has also been acknowledged that such actors have little experience in terms of how to put conflict sensitivity into practice. So in response to what can be described as a knowledge gap, Saferworld is facilitating field research, conflict analysis, policy dialogue, but also training for key Chinese actors operating in South Sudan. The focus is on how a conflict-sensitive approach could be operationalized so to help Chinese companies manage risks in South Sudan and maximize social, environmental, economic, and the security benefit for local communities and the national government. Company representatives with whom we have engaged are beginning to see the benefits of using tools of consultation and communication to gain, for example, acceptance of local communities and local actors as an effective risk management strategy, more effective than relying only on government security services or the government institutions that are sometimes themselves parties to a conflict in many countries. The numerous South Sudanese NGOs and other civil society actors who have been involved in the project have all stressed that Chinese economic engagement in South Sudan is quite a timely and relevant topic for South Sudanese civil society to focus on. So through visits by South Sudanese NGOs to China, interaction with Chinese actors at meetings and seminars, I think that South Sudanese civil society actors have increased, I think, their understanding of the nature of China's engagement in South Sudan, China's interest, China's foreign policy. I think this has also helped to dispel some misunderstandings, misconceptions, and even stereotypes surrounding China's role in Africa. This effort has been quite successful in establishing relationships with key Chinese actors operating in South Sudan, including important economic actors as well as government officials, diplomats, think tanks, scholars. Our key Chinese interlocutors have come to understand the importance and relevance of conflict sensitivity and its applicability in the case of South Sudan as well as in the case of other conflict-affected states. There has also been an acknowledgement of the relevance of the concept of conflict sensitivity to ongoing policy reforms in China and internationally. Ultimately, the priority will be in putting conflict sensitivity into practice. So we have, for example, recently begun working with a major Chinese state-owned enterprise to conduct a conflict analysis of its hydropower project in South Sudan. What ultimately matters for us is that through this project, we make a positive contribution to the lives of people who are affected by conflict.